Welcome to the Answers for Elders radio show. Meet the trusted experts who will give you straight answers and will help guide you on the path of later life care. Now, here's your host, founder, caregiver, and CEO, Suzanne Newman.
And welcome everyone back to Answers for Elders Radio Network, heard across the USA on your very favorite podcast channel. And we are back with Dr. Shawn Weiss, and we are talking about risks, global risk of dementia. What makes someone predisposed to potentially getting a high risk of dementia? And Dr. Weiss, in our first segment, we talked about the global study and the information. And so this segment, we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about this study. And so Dr. Shawn, welcome back to Answers for Elders.
Thank you. Awesome to be here.
Yeah. So Dr. Shawn, you talked a little bit about the global risk factors. The name of this study, I believe, is Finger Lifestyle Intervention.
The worldwide global study is the Fingers Network, which many countries right now at 25, I believe, have joined this, where they are studying globally over a certain length of time, different modifiable risk factors and lowering the risk of developing any type of dementia.
Wow. So what are the components of this study as far as what all was involved?
Well, I think one of the biggest things, and what I'm trying to do, is give people takeaways, right? Things that are practical, So you have to read a huge scientific study, or what are we pulling from it that is really of value that we can start applying. And, what we talked about, the life course model, which was the modifiable lifestyle plan, right? It's a multi-domain lifestyle plan, which means what's it covering? And so that was really on the Lancet Commission. And the Lancet Commission, which we talked about in the last episode, the Commission on Dementia, Prevention, Intervention, and Care, came up with this 4-area lifestyle model. And it involved nutrition changes, exercise, it involved stress management, and then it involved support groups. So I thought what we do is spend a little bit of time of giving some information on, okay, how can you apply this to your everyday life, right? I think that's critical for people to, when they get off of this, they're like, oh my gosh, I can totally go make some changes that might lower my risk, or maybe I'm already predisposed and I want to take some of this away. We don't need to wait. Some of these things are very easy to apply. You don't need to wait to the results of the study to tell you to do these things. These are things you probably have heard of already, but now that they're kind of really looking at it as a whole, why not participate with that, right?
Yeah.
So nutrition was the first big one. And they did find that there was I believe 30% lower risk of developing cognitive impairment by incorporating some of these nutritional changes. One, minimally processed food. They really want you to focus on whole foods, even a plant-based diet. Includes lots of vegetables and fruits, which are your complex carbs that has the natural sugar in it. That was huge. Whole grains, legumes, seeds and nuts. They looked at that too. So that's kind of part of their whole thing. But they even broke down the percentages of fats and proteins and complex carbs. If you want to get, I have a whole PowerPoint presentation on it, but if you want to just hear it, it's 14% of your daily diet should be in total fat, 16 to 18% in protein, and the 63 to 68% actually in complex carbohydrates.
Interesting.
The Mediterranean diet, which you might have heard of, really is one that's really, really popular, that really kind of hits all, checks all the boxes for something like this. A lot of fish, a lot of nuts, things in vegetables, things of that nature. So
it's interesting that you said that important. because I've been trying to watch my diet a lot, obviously. And one of the things that I went to a restaurant last night, Italian restaurant, and it was chicken, eggplant, Parmesan. And I just asked them, would you leave off the chicken? I just want the eggplant. and the guy was like, you only want the eggplant? I go, yeah, I don't want the extra, who knows where the chicken came from. And I'm not a big meat eater, but I think making that change, it didn't change the dish, but I was getting the nutrition from the eggplant was fabulous. And those are things I think that we can all think about how we can, make better choices in our meals, and I didn't miss the chicken. I don't do very much chicken or meat.
Well, I'm sure you do protein in other ways. And like, even if you're on a plant-based diet, I'm a big proponent. I think you and I have talked about this of meat. I'm grass-fed beef, fish, chicken, organic. You can get organic.
Yeah, I eat a lot of fresh fish because of where we are in Seattle. Obviously, I get access.
I know, I'm gonna be amazing.
Wonderful. I mean, I have right in my refrigerator I just got some wild caught Copper River salmon. I mean, my God, that's just the best.
You can't get any better than that.
Right. So we're lucky in that way, but I personally don't eat beef very much, very little, but every once in a while I'll get a craving for it. It's like, and then we'll go and I'll get a fillet or something like that. And that's, but
and I would recommend just going grass-fed only, and lean, grass-fed lean beef. And the thing is, and you and I have talked about this many times, me being in the field of geriatrics, as we age, the protein is so important for preserving muscle function. Our muscles are the organ of longevity. Yeah. So the protein has to be in there, and they're looking at 16 to 18% of your diet in protein.
And I agree with that. And, I'm learning, I have a can of nuts they have a little sea salt on them, but that's all. They're natural. And if I get hungry or whatever, I just take a handful of those. Those are protein, correct?
Yes, the nuts are great, and they're great sources of fiber also.
Yeah. So those are all good things. So obviously with the diet also, what about hydration? Is that a factor?
Hydration's huge. It wasn't really mentioned in here, but that hydration.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to ask you, because it's a
limiting.
Big deal with seniors.
Yeah. And hydration is, not all liquids are the same. Okay. Right. I still talk with patients, and they're like, "Well,
wine isn't necessary,
what if you have
a cup
water?
Of coffee isn't hydration.
3 Diet Pepsis. Well, 3 Diet Pepsis, like, okay, there's so much wrong with that.
Yeah.
Not only the sugar, and I mean, there's just so many things wrong. Like, no, those are dehydrating, right? And it contains caffeine. So you really want to stick with, water. You can find some, there's a lot of people that are doing the little flavor sticks. My caution there is just, and I use several different brands, but no sugar. Like, I really have to watch the ingredients of those, like of how much extra sugar are you getting, and do they have what vitamins are in there? You could really kind of get a, good bang for your buck on putting that in your water every day. I don't like to drink plain water. I have to have something in it. I like cutting up fresh lemons. Fresh lemons are a great way. They're great for your gut health too. But hydration is important, and you'll see varied guidelines on that. I won't ever forget a conversation I had with a urologist a couple years ago who knew that I owned a home health agency. He's like, if I can tell you one thing is, I know you see a lot of drinking, 180 ounces of water a day, or how much your body, times your body weight. He's like, there is such a thing, as we get older, as overloading your kidneys, right? Right. There is such a thing of overhydration in elderly, and you have to really pay attention to that.
Interesting.
So I always really, because if you have kidney issues, or if you're diabetic, or anything that could dispose you to where you're having issues with that, throwing so much water into your system, like he said to me, he's like, you can only if your kidneys are having trouble keeping up processing all of that liquid. So he's like, some people actually don't need 100 and some ounces of water. And I thought that was a really good point to make, especially when we're not talking about 18-year-old people who are just much more active. So I think it's super critical that we remember that. And I always say, get one of those 32-ounce jugs, fill it in the morning, have it done by lunchtime, fill it again, have it done by dinner time. And there's 64 ounces. So that's the minimum.
Yeah. And I've discovered sparkling water, which is great because I throw fresh lime pieces in it, and it's delicious. And I've never been like you. I'm not a big water drinker by itself, but I'll do, we go to Costco and we get San Pellegrino water, and I go through probably a case of that every 2 weeks, which is great.
That's super important. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another option I think is important with options to keep yourself hydrated. And I know we've kind of gone off on this sidetrack, but
I know.
I wanted to bring it up because I think this is one of the biggest challenges with seniors, because we weren't taught to drink water when we were growing up. We were taught to drink milk with dinner, right? It was a different world, right? So that's the other thing. So what about exercise? You mentioned exercise.
Mm-hmm. So with exercise, what they looked at is they have 3 components. One is really encouraging people to get at least 30 minutes of walking in per day. Mm-hmm. That can be broke up into 10-minute chunks, right? Some people are like, oh, what if I don't live in somewhere I can get out there? Or if you have issues with mobility, that might be a little bit more difficult. You obviously will want to walk safely, even if you have an assistive device.
Right.
30 minutes of walking, just the weight bearing effects, improving bone density. It's really the best overall exercise you can do is walking. Right. The other one, and again, like all this stuff is near and dear to my heart as a physical therapist, is the strength and resistance training 3 times per week. It does not have to be anything heavy. I give soup cans to people who really are struggling, because those are about a pound each. You can get cans of soup out of your pantry. You don't need to go buy anything. But resistance training, again, muscles, the organ of longevity. We want to promote muscle strength and muscle retention through protein, et cetera.
Right.
But you really do need the resistance training 3 times a week. And that's going to look different for each person, right? Sure. You need to know what's your medical history. Do you have injuries? Do you have exercise restrictions? And that's where getting a nice individualized plan is great.
Right.
And then also, in with your strength training is other home exercises that are incorporated. And that could be flexibility, stretching, all of those great things, meditation, things of that nature. So home exercise program, 3 times a week, strength training, 30 minutes a day of walking is what this model predicts.
Yeah. And I think that that's so valuable. I know with so many seniors, it's a great thing. Get a dog. You have to walk the dog. Right. And I think that's a good thing. I know with,
as long as you can safely walk the dog and not trip all over the dog.
I was going to say, well, that's the other side. And luckily, our older dog, I can walk, no problem. But our puppy is a little wild and crazy. So still,
I get it.
But that's just really what goes on.
Totally get it.
So Dr. Shawn, as far as how do you start with, you've got information on your website on all of this?
I do.
Fabulous.
And the last 2 things were, one was stress management and meditation, yoga, flexibility exercises, breathing strategies. And then the last one was the support groups. And they broke those support groups down into 3 times per week. And they exercised together. They did stretch management techniques. They did straight support group talks and lectures and education in those 3 times a week support groups.
Wow.
So I thought that was really great. But yes, seniorhealthandwellness.org, you can find some great information on there and other videos that I've done.
Yeah. And I'm excited to just share this information. I think it's important that we all, as baby boomers, obviously, we may not have eaten the most healthily, being products of the 50s and 60s, which is major processed foods. But I never believe it's too late to make those changes.
It's never too late.
Yeah.
It really isn't.
It's never too late. And to just start making better choices about what we eat is so vitally important. So thank you so much.
I'm going to be doing a webinar on all of this. So, I'll make sure that all your listeners get a link to this webinar.
Absolutely. And of course, we have a program coming up in July and August of 2024. And for those of you that, if you're still in that, but Dr. Shawn is our specialist spotlight, and you can find all kinds of content during that time period on that topic. So I am very excited. Thank you again for being with us. And Dr. Shawn again can be reached at www.seniorhealthandwellness.org.
We at Answers for Elders thank you for listening. Did you know that you can discover hundreds of podcasts in our library on senior care? So visit our website and discover our decision guides that will help you also navigate decision making. Find us at answersforelders.com.